It's late May and it's time for another gardening update. Let's get out there and look around. In this video, we'll do a quick walk by of the garden, then we'll take a closer look at a few things. Then I'll take a little bit of time and go into more detail about some of my pepper projects. This is the time of year when everything around here starts growing a lot faster. From the end of May till the end of June, things will change a lot. We've noticed that not as many orioles are visiting the feeders, so I'm pretty sure they've started to nest now. I think the potatoes might be just a little bit ahead of where they were last year, and they're getting so tall that at some point they'll probably fall over. And believe it or not, the bananas are almost 5 feet tall now. And here's a quick look at the garden from another angle. Several years ago, I crossed some glass gem corn with some popcorn, and then I crossed that cross with some japonica corn, which is an ornamental corn. I'm trying to produce some ornamental popcorn with variegated foliage. A few of the plants even have pink and red in the leaves. I've been working on culling some of these plants and keeping only the best ones. Before I go any further, I thought I'd talk about the red cups that you see out in the garden. I cut the bottoms out of those cups and used them for cutworm collars. I made this petunia tower out of an old tomato cage and some landscape fabric. I left one hole empty so it wouldn't interfere with the green stalk that is nearby. I finally got the green stalk stackable planter planted. In the first level I have some peppers planted that don't grow very tall, and in the second level I have bush beans. In the third level, I have more peppers that don't grow very tall, and in the fourth level, more bush beans. Then finally, in the top level, I have some beetroot planted, and they're just starting to sprout. I planted some China jade cucumbers, and I'm going to let those climb up this very large tomato cage. It's about 5 feet tall. I noticed that I had a few volunteer long beans coming up, so I put another cage there and planted some more long beans around it. Over by this cattle panel, I have some Marketmore 76 cucumber seedlings going, and I'll be thinning those out as they grow. The spinach is growing pretty well and is ready to start harvesting now. We enjoy putting fresh spinach in salads, and the lettuce is growing well enough now that we'll have some of those salads very soon. The candy cane chocolate cherry pepper plant already has a pepper on it. We're getting quite a few snow peas and snap peas from the garden now, and recently Mrs. Midwest Gardener took some Alfredo sauce and some pasta, added some of those snow peas and snap peas with some carrots and some cut up asparagus and a garlic scape for flavor, and it went really well with some salmon we had. I don't think this pepper plant was in the ground for the last update, but it already has some little peppers on it. It's a habanada. This week we've had perfect weather for growing tomatoes. It's been about 80 degrees during the day and about 60 degrees at night. But having lived in this area all of my life, I know that the hot weather is coming. It's all a matter of just how hot it will be. Last year it got hot pretty early and stayed that way, and it just wasn't a very good year for tomatoes. I usually plant petunias in this old hollow log, but this year I planted a variegated tomato plant called Shimo Furry. I think that will look pretty cool once it has tomatoes on it. While I was noticing the blooms on the tomatoes, I also noticed that the potatoes had flower buds forming. I also have a 5-gallon grow bag that's hanging with a Shimo Furry tomato plant in it. That particular brand has grommets in it. Now let's take a look at some of our pepper crosses. This one is a cross between a Midwest Midnight Eclipse and a sweet pepper called Kourbaki. I have 2 of the F1s growing, and one of them is starting to change color and get ripe now. For those of you who aren't familiar with what the parents look like, this is what the Midwest Midnight Eclipse looks like. It has very dark foliage and very dark peppers and no heat. This is what the other parent looks like, the Kourbaki. It's a sweet pepper that gets very long and turns gradually from yellow to red as it ripens. As you can see, the F1 cross got some qualities from both parents. This is what the F2 generation looks like so far. It'll be a while before we get to see and taste the peppers. Here's two more F2s that aren't nearly as dark. I also took that Courbaki crossed with Midnight Eclipse and crossed that F1 with an Eau de Pinot. We already know what the first two parents look like, so let's take a look at the Eau de Pinot. The Eau de Pinot is a purple pepper that has very mild heat. This is an F1, and I'm hoping to produce a plant with dark foliage and purple peppers instead of almost black. These four plants are F2 siblings. They are the result of a cross between a Courbaki and a variegated version of the Midwest Midnight Orange. Here's what the non-variegated Midwest Midnight Orange looks like. Even though it's kind of hard to tell right now, all four of these plants are variegated. The best tasting sweet pepper that I've tried so far is the Jimmy Nardello, which you're looking at here. I also like the Courbaki quite a bit, so I got to wondering what the two crossed together would taste like. So I did that cross, and you're looking at the F2 generation in this grow bag. I have four of them. The F1s tasted pretty good, but I wouldn't say they were better than either parent. I took the Jimmy Nardello Courbaki cross and crossed that with a four-way cross, creating a six-way cross. This is the F1 generation. The other four plants that were involved in this cross were Uchu, Mutant, Blue Christmas, and Hot Palette. This is another six-way cross using the same four-way cross that I mentioned before, crossed with my Courbaki and Eau de Pinot cross. The plant that I used for this cross was heterozygous for Mutant. This is an F1 four-way cross between my Jimmy Nardello and Courbaki cross and a Purple Jalapeno and Dreamcatcher cross. I also crossed Courbaki with Aconcagua. This is what Aconcagua peppers look like. I took that same Aconcagua and Courbaki cross, and I crossed that with another cross between Bleeding Raw Wet White and Mohawk. This is what the peppers from the Bleeding Raw Wet White and Mohawk cross look like. This is the darkest cross that I had between a Courbaki and a Midwest Midnight Orange. This is an F2. Here's the F2 generation of that Courbaki and Aconcagua cross. I have four of those. Ideally, I'd want to grow a dozen or more, but I just don't have the room or time. Last year, I saved seeds from my candy cane, which is supposed to be a hybrid, and I grew some this year just to see what would happen. Last year, I grew a couple of mutant peppers, and I saved seeds from those, and some of the seedlings from those seeds weren't mutants. I saved seeds from this plant and a couple of others, and this is what I grew from them, mutants. And some of the mutants have pretty dark foliage on them, so I'm going to grow these out and see what they turn into. I could go on, but I think you get the idea. I've got lots and lots of pepper projects going right now. I'm having lots of fun in my garden. I hope you're having lots of fun in yours. And if you're just now finding this channel and you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.